was just so fun to see the amount of fans that were buzzing after the game. I mean, it wasn't the time where it's like, oh, like the LSU game, I think back to at home. It was like, ugh, it was gross. Nobody was really pumped up and excited. But everyone just knows what this team is going up against and what they have lost, obviously losing Boogie Fland and now Do Thero and losing some pieces there. And then having to go to overtime when you're already shorthanded and still finding a way to win. I don't care if it's against Texas. I don't care who it's against in the SEC, especially. You just keep finding ways to win and you keep overcoming it. And, maybe it's cliche to say, maybe it's just living in the moment, but you got to give a lot of credit where it's due to Cal and to this team and, whether they call it fragile or whatever, but they just refuse to lose right now. And what they're doing is just, again, you can't speak highly enough about it in the job that they're doing and how they're doing it and approaching it and everything. It's just so much fun to have that again, where I can't tell you how many people not only were at the game last night, but we're talking about the game, we're talking about it this morning. It's just good to have that culture, that vibe back with Razorback basketball.
Yeah, it really is. And you roll your eyes sometimes at those cliche phrases that coach speak nonsense. Like, refuse to lose. I broke that one out. And that's been the motto. But then when you go out there and really see them embody it the way they have the last couple games, you're kind of like, dang, sometimes you don't have to teach an old dog new tricks. Like John Calipari still can just reach into the old bag and pull these things out. Pretty impressive the way that he's, kept these guys on the hook. It would have been easy for him to kind of let go when they got off to such a slow start in SEC play. And he says it, man. He's like, hey, we're grinders, right? But they are. They really are. Like they keep having reasons to falter after they find success. Obviously losing Boogie. And then you had those tough, close losses. You think about Bama and A&M and Auburn, and you just can't get over the freaking hump. And then you get the huge win and you get over that hump, and then down goes Thero. And it's like, my God, man, like, can these dudes catch a break? And it doesn't matter. They don't care. They just continue to go out there and put in the work, and got to give Cal a ton of credit. And I wrote about this in a story last night, but I thought he put on a coaching clinic last night. I really did, from the way that he handled the substitutions, to some of the adjustments that he made with his new look lineups, some of the things that they did, everything outside of that one Trey Johnson play defensively. I thought Cal was brilliant in this basketball game. So for all the haters, I'm not even going to pat myself on the back and say you were wrong. I'll just say, go back and watch the game and watch how he coached circles around Rodney Terry, and then come back and talk to us. Cal still got it, man. Good on him.
The SEC is a league that can really just break you down. And we see it break down teams literally every single week. We see a team that just finds themselves in a game that they were not ready for, because in each given night, it's just really hard to win in this league. And, that's been the case this entire time. And I want to give Cal credit in that regard too, because he's spoken about it a lot, and it sounds like he's making excuses and he's just reminding us, hey guys, do you know how good the SEC is? He does this whole rant, but it's true. And I think he's kind of given that team that mindset where the margin for error in this league is so small, and the difference between winning and losing is just not that much. Like, Arkansas is not that different of a basketball team than they were 2 months ago when they were 0-5 and they were really struggling to get anything going in this league. But just minor adjustments, the little things add up, and you see what you can accomplish. And I think I've said it a few times now, but just going into March, I think this prepares Arkansas so much better than, a lot of the teams that they're going to be seeing when they get into that tournament, just because you're having to dig deep like this so often. Now Arkansas is kind of able to come out of the other end of it, where you look around the league, even in the same league, at some other teams who maybe were playing well early, but are now starting to get broken down, like a Mississippi State, who Arkansas is going to face here in a little bit, like even an Ole Miss, who got thumped last night. And so I feel like Arkansas maybe is just kind of in a positive trajectory, and we'll see how far they can take it. But I definitely just feel like this team has shown over the past few weeks that they're equipped to win the type of games you need to win to not only get into March, but to be a factor and be a team that teams don't want to face.
Yeah, and listen, I don't care what anybody says about how the game went last night. There were a lot of problems. There were issues. I mean, the fact that you saw a single player score 39 points against you as just as unstoppable as he was, there's never such thing as a perfect game in the game of basketball. But when you see when you win, because let's be honest, if Arkansas, before you went into the game, hey, Arkansas is going to win 86-81, everyone's be like, great, yeah, it's a win, whatever it takes, it's great. But it's kind of like what we always talked about with the way this team was losing. It's the same thing with the way that they win and the way that they won last night. You'll take a win no matter how it happens. but to play so well in the first half, to have a performance like you did from Trey Johnson where the dude was just unconscious, to blow that lead that you had, that double-digit lead, to miss that free throw from DJ Wagner right into regulation to possibly win, to go into overtime with a short bench and still find a way to win. I think that that's what sticks out to me as the most impressive thing, and what excites me about this team the most down the stretch is that they had so much going against them and they still just fought. They grinded, all the terms, but that's what they do. And that's what they did last night. I don't care, again, if it's against Texas or whoever. I mean, that is the type of thing where it just sets you up. And I'm using a lot of cliches. It sets you up to win in March, like when it's going to be all of the teams that may come back on you, and it's win or go home, and it's a must-win situation, and all those things. It's just proving to me that this team is good enough, mentally tough enough, and capable of weathering storms, overcoming deficits, and making the shots and making the plays when it matters the most down the stretch. And so I'm just tickled as can be. I know they still got work to do in the regular season. They got 3 games left. They got the SEC tournament and all that. But assuming this team makes it to the NCAA tournament, makes it in a good spot, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, I'm predicting a Final Four. But I wouldn't be shocked with the way that they play if they won a game or two. I just wouldn't be, assuming that this keeps going, assuming that they don't run out of gas because of how short bench they are. But where they're at right now is just such a great spot in the type of way that they're deciding to win games.
I definitely can't rule anything out with this team anymore. I mean, they kind of continue to prove people wrong. It's just the way it all went down. Like Trevin Brazile, of all people, when he's kind of at his lowest point, stepping up and delivering the way he did. Heck, just think about overtime. Like how Arkansas was able to get that done in overtime. You're going against, a dude who's having an out-of-body experience in Trey Johnson. And how do you counter it? You're dumping it into the post to Big Z. You guys ever think we would say that? Like that would be the go-to thing for Arkansas? And he's like drop-stepping and dunking on a 7-footer in there. Between that, Nelly Davis, who, we've talked about it a lot, but it's been a struggle for him to kind of get his confidence and get back to this point. He looks like that Final Four guard, stepping up, sinking the free throws. Jonas Adu, who, I mean, the dude looks like he should be playing wheelchair basketball sometimes out there. And now he's got a little bit more spring in his step, and he takes his 46% free throw percentage and goes and knocks those down. The way that just different guys are stepping up and delivering is really impressive. And you just got to give them a lot of credit. And you're right, they got a lot of work left to be done. How much gas do they have in the tank? I don't freaking know. Like, can Big Z walk this morning? I don't know. Is Theo going to be back? I'm going to say no on Saturday, but could you get him back at some point? I feel more optimistic after hearing Kenny Payne talk after the game, but it's almost like no matter what they're down to, they just continue to figure out a way to be competitive, man. And I just keep going back to Cal, and I got to give him a lot of credit for keeping these guys locked in.
You remember after Arkansas won their first SEC game against Georgia at home, and Cal was like, man, I wish I could say I'm glad I'm going through this, but I'm really not. Like, it's been tough. Like, it's been challenging this season. It's been a roller coaster, and we've kind of all been challenged. And he's like, but I think I'm going to be a better coach because of this, and I think the players are going to be better players. And so to that point, Curtis, like, the way this weird story is played out, you have Boogie going down. You now have Adu Thero going down when he did. You have the short rotation. You have this guy slumping, this guy playing well. It's forced so many different characters to have to step up. I mean, Trevin Brazile was the hero last night. Big Z has obviously had his share where he's had to be the guy. DJ Wagner made a few clutch buckets. He just kind of always does, seems to have that knack for when he needs to make the right play. And you're right. Like, you go on down the line, it's that way for everyone. And that kind of forces your team to just have a different level of confidence, different level of swagger about them. And guys are excelling in their roles. And so once you can maybe get Adu Thero back, then all of a sudden you're just like, man, now we have all these guys that are overqualified for their roles. They're feeling good. You're going into March, and we'll see how far they can go. But it's just about being dangerous and feeling like you're in every game. And I think this team at this point certainly feels like they're in every game.
I want to say real quick about just the resiliency of this team. If you think back to that Michigan game, like that was the first big-time win that Arkansas got, and you had Trevin Brazile, who missed those free throws, right? And it was like, dude, that's, that was he played a good game. He missed those free throws and put Arkansas in a tough spot, but he didn't let it affect next play. And then he gets that big block on the next possession. It was one of the game sealing plays. Nelly Davis didn't play good that entire game, And then Michigan draws up the inbounds play at the very end, and he winds up getting beat on the back door, hustling, recovering, deflecting that basketball, making a defensive play, sucked on offense, didn't let it impact the other end of the game. DJ Wagner last night, like he misses the go-ahead free throw at the end of regulation. He misses another key free throw in overtime. Right after that, he comes up with that key steal against Trey Johnson, and that was an X factor in sealing the win. These guys are doing a really good job of staying mentally tough in the moment and not letting mistakes double down or one mistake become two. And it's interesting because we've questioned at times like, well, who is the leader? Like, who is the alpha on this team? I still don't know the answer to that question, but what I will say is for the most part, these guys are showing a lot of individual resiliency, and that's really important when you're in a position like this where every game is such a do or die thing.
I love coaching this team.
He does.
Yes.
He actually does love
Yes.
coaching this team. That's